G'day, I'm Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and I already know I'm going to get some kickback from this video because some people will see chipping up old hardwood decking boards as a controversial thing to do, and that's okay. Let's get into it. I'm more than happy enough to make my case on the merits of chipping hardwood decking boards. So if you want to chip away at me, you can do so in the comment section below. Good or bad points, I'll be happy to read your thoughts. This past week has been a chipping frenzy. We had family over for our eldest son, James' 17th birthday. So I really wanted to get the property looking schmick, because you know what it's like when the fam visits. There's this expectation that they're going to get good food, and also because it's Self-Sufficient Me property, they want to experience a really good look around as well. Hence why you haven't seen much of me over the past week. Anyway, the reason why I decided to chip up these old hardwood boards in the first place was, well, not these ones. I saved these because they were still pretty good, but those old ones was because they were far too buggered to be able to reuse for anything else but wood chipping, to be honest. We recently renovated our old rotting back deck and it came up really nice, but I just didn't want to have all the debris carted off to the tip because I wanted to recycle as much as I could. You know, big beautiful hardwood trees were cut down decades ago to use in our home, so the least I could do was try to salvage some of it to be reused in other parts of our property. I've used some of the wood to make outdoor shelving, and I've built some garden beds with the old railings around our deck. And I intend to use some of the longer decking boards to make another garden bed similar to these two, but out of this right in the middle here, and depending on how much I've got, I might even make more of them. I also want to build a new enclosure specifically for ducks right here. I've got the old duck pond which has been redundant for a little while, but I want to get that back into use. But I'm thinking a type of pen, probably about 10 by about this width, and I can use those boards at one side to be able to create a little sheltered home for them, and the rest can be snake-proof mesh, just like my quail pen and also my chicken run behind you guys there. I want to revamp our poultry area. I'm happy with the chicken run, I'm happy with the quail run, but we've just had some new ducks hatch out from our apple yards, and I think it'd be really handy to have a separate pen for them and to tear down some of that old stuff I've had up now for what, 12 or so years. So yeah, that's going to be another work in progress, but it's what I can use that wood for. And I think it's going to work out really well. It's a good use of recycled materials, and it's something that I'm needing to do. So yeah, these boards will certainly come in handy for repurposing. Unfortunately, when we took the nails out, well, it was mainly the boys that did that, and I went through and vetted all the boards. Some of them were just too old and weathered to reuse as building material, so I decided to chip it up for recycling in the garden. I know what some of you are thinking. Doesn't decking boards contain dangerous chemicals like arsenic to preserve the wood and that type of stuff? And wouldn't those chemicals, once mulched up, sort of enhance and release them and then be dangerous in the garden? Well, you know me, Chippy the Danger Man is my middle name. You know, I like running experiments in the garden. My educated opinion is that it won't do any harm at all put underneath a tree or in the garden. In fact, I think it'll be the opposite. I think it will break down beautifully and only add and improve the soil, and thus help the fruit tree, or wherever you put it, grow quite well. I perhaps wouldn't put it in the veggie patch. I think it probably would be a step too far to start putting it where there are leafy vegetables and fast growing plants that you eat. What I'm saying is sometimes the softer vegetables and the fast growing vegetables can have a bit of an uptake in chemicals. Not always, it's unusual, but on the safe side, I would put them underneath a fruit tree, and that's exactly what I've done. Now, I don't believe the wood has any nasty chemicals in it. I mean, for a start, it is a hardwood, and it wasn't supposed to have had any chemicals put in it or treated. It's not treated pine, and it certainly doesn't have arsenic in it. But what it would have is, and I can see some of it here, is some decking, I don't know if it's focusing on my face, is some decking oil. And that decking oil does contain chemicals, of course, that needs to be broken down, but they're not toxic. They're not toxic in the sense that it's going to give you harm or cancer or anything like that. And by the time that breaks down underneath the tree, it certainly won't affect the fruit, because the root system of a tree will filter anything out, and if there is anything really nasty, it'll kill the tree. At the moment it's a little bit sparse on foliage because we're still in winter. I might throw a bit of extra fertilizer on there, because as that mulch breaks down, it will suck some of the nutrients out of the soil to help it break down, some of the nitrogen, for example. But then once it breaks down, that goes back into the soil, so it's recyclable nutrients. But if this tree does go down south, I will let you know about it, of course. I'll be sad, but you will be the first to know. The other thing some of you might be thinking is, won't chipping up hardwood boards damage your chipper? Well, it's not the easiest material to chip up, that's for sure, but I like to push my tools and equipment to the limit. And Hansa didn't give me this chipper for me to baby it and sing its praises. Nope. In my opinion, a machine like this should be capable of chipping up hardwood boards. And it is. I did have to be smart about it and keep the length shorter than usual, or it did start to labour and put unreasonable stress on the belts. I'm not that reckless, but if I took my time, it still made short work of those planks. I've had this now for over 12 months. Actually, it's probably time I take this fella in for a service just to get the blades sharpened and the motor checked out, oil change and that type of thing. I could do it myself, but I'm too busy. Who am I kidding? I don't know anything about sharpening chipper blades. Maybe I could change the oil, but that's about it. But speaking of chipping and mulching, like I said, we spent this whole last week doing a ton of pruning and then chipping and mulching all that pruning. It's winter here where we are, and spring is on the 1st of September. So I always like to give the fruit trees a good prune through winter to get them ready for the new growing season. This time, instead of mulching and chipping in the one spot and then spreading the mulch, I rolled the chipper around the property and mulched directly back under the trees. I found this was really useful because I didn't have to double handle the mulch. I could just point the mulcher in one direction and just move it around as needed, and then spread the mulch or just tidy the mulch up around a particular tree, and then that was the job done. The only problem I had was later when the scrub turkey, and there's one around here stalking me at the moment, can't see him, but when the scrub turkeys come out, they like to spread it out again all over the place. But there's nothing much I can do about that. Lastly, but still about chipping, the boys got stuck into spreading these huge piles of mulch that we had in the front of our food forest garden in our front yard. Most of this chipping was done by a friend of ours, Eden, who runs a tree lopping and chipping business. They did a great job pruning back some of our big trees that my chipper couldn't handle, and then left us with the mulch, of course, so it could be spread around the base of our forest area, which is essentially a mixture of native bush tucker plants. You've got standard things, this here is a peach, and other rare varieties of fruit trees and herbs and smaller shrub type plants that can handle this type of condition, shade and afternoon sun. So a pretty hardy food forest area that we're trying to create here, and that mulch is going to give it a whole heap of help to stay cool and keep the moisture in and improve the soil. I finished up mulching some green palm fronds, and overall the place is looking good now coming into spring and the new growing season. By the way, these green palm fronds couldn't be more of a contrast to the hardwood decking boards that we chipped up. So they're both tricky. One is hard, one is soft and stringy, and the Hansa did well with it. So yeah, that was another little test. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a big chippy dippy do thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share the video around because that helps me out heaps. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.